he's like, basically, well, there's this prison and sanatorium. We're like a paranormal investigation show. And we're thinking about filming at this place, but we want to send, a PA to go check it out, take pictures, give us some notes so we can be prepared. And he's like, is that something you're interested in? I was like, oh, absolutely. He's like, okay, if it goes well, we might bring you back on to do the actual episodes, if this location is selected. Mm-hmm. And so sure enough, like 2 days later, again, because everything's short notice, I am walking, no joke, through this abandoned prison with just one guide, just taking pictures and just doing notes on stuff. And it was basically a mini scout. Mm-hmm. And so I gave them my pictures and notes and stuff, and they were like, this is fantastic. Like you killed it. Like this is going to be super helpful. And so then whenever they came to shoot 2 episodes at that prison, show's Destination Fear. They invited me back. They said, hey, we're going to be back in Altoona. Mm-hmm. Do you want to help with this like 7 or 8 day shoot at the prison? Like, you already have a good idea of the location and all that. And so I was like, yeah, for sure. Like, because I really like going through the prison too. Mm-hmm. My first day there, I basically showed up at their hotel, and they basically threw me the keys to a cargo van and were like, we need you to drive to Harrisburg. The crew is landing in 2 hours with the gear. You need to load up all this gear and bring it back to Altoona. I'm like, Jesus. So I'm driving a cargo van for the first time to Harrisburg. Good practice. If you want a PA, that's a good thing to practice. Go rent a U-Haul and drive it so that you can say you've driven a Sprinter van. Mm-hmm. So I did that. I drove it to Harrisburg, turned around, brought all that gear back. And it was like midnight. And I think it was like 12:30. And the producer walked over and was like, hey, I want to make sure. He's like, hey, don't worry about unloading all this. I want to get you home. That way you're rested to drive to Pittsburgh tomorrow. And I was like, what? And he's like, oh, did they not tell you? I was like, no. They're like, oh, our last remaining cast member lands at the Pittsburgh airport at noon tomorrow. So I want to make sure you're like wheels up by like 9 to make sure you're over there with plenty of time. And there's a snowstorm forecasted. Like the snow is starting in Altoona as we unload. And luckily this was right after I signed my lease in Pittsburgh. This was March. This was like my first couple of weeks of having an apartment here. Still living at home, really. And I was like, okay, well, I'm going to drive to Pittsburgh tonight. I was like, I don't want to drive in the snowstorm tomorrow. Jack, are you sure? Like, you just drove to Harrisburg and back. Do you really want to drive to Pittsburgh now? I was like, I have an apartment. Like, it's fine. Then I'll be really close to the airport. And they were like, okay. Actually gave me minivan keys. Oh, wow. So they let me drive a rental minivan over here, which was better in the snow, thank God. But there really was a full-on snowstorm. It was a really intimate crew. It was only like 16 crew members, basically split into 2 groups of 8. Mm-hmm. So I became, very close with the people that I worked with. They were all super down to earth. And, with reality, non-union stuff, it's just so much more tight-knit and involved. I was moving lights and helping light. And, mm-hmm. I was able to give recommendations on what the camera guy should shoot, if I had an idea of a shot. And so it was definitely fun being hands-on. Yeah. And just feeling more involved versus, PAs on these bigger shows. There's just so many specific departments and people that you can never really be involved. Yeah. Actually, they were going down to Tennessee after they finished Altoona, but then coming back up to Ohio for an episode. And I loved working with them so much that I was like, hey, if you can give me a hotel in Ohio, I will drive over and do this episode. They were like, done deal. They were just so fun to work with. And since everyone was traveling, staying in a hotel, we would go to the hotel and just drink. Like after we got off shooting, we'd sit around, have drinks, and talk about industry people. And that almost brought me back to the college kind of tight-knit. Like yeah. It was tight-knit. Everybody was collaborative and hands-on, and then afterwards, you're friends outside of the shoot,
Film and drink. That's all there is to it.
Yeah, film and drink. Yeah, what else could you do?